Mr. Doggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this important hearing. There is every reason, of course, to celebrate the 75th anniversary of Social Security, but unfortunately, resistance from some elements of the Republican Party to Social Security has lasted longer than 75 years. And it continues to this day. It just changes form and tactics. We know, as reflected very well in the title of your book, Ms. Altman, that until this Congress, the latest major challenge that Social Security faced was George Bush's attempt to privatize it. He said he was going to use his political capital to privatize it. Fortunately, we were able to overcome those efforts, but now we face other great challenges from those who promote myths that our country cannot afford to continue its commitment to Social Security, or the suggestion that Social Security will simply not be there not only for grandchildren as well as grandparents. And certainly I think that must be one of our goals, to assure that our grandchildren have the same protection we want for our grandparents today. Let me ask you first, Ms. Altman, about some of this mythology that is being promoted. One of the major efforts of the Bush administration and those who continue to adhere to that philosophy that only private plans work, and I think maybe some of the resistance that they have had for over 75 years to Social Security, is that Social Security works so well and it operates so efficiently that it is perhaps the best example that totally conflicts with their ideology that government can never do anything effectively. And that's why they despise it so much. But one of the examples that they use is a suggestion that, you know, there's no guarantee you'll get this Social Security money. The government is spending all that money that's in Social Security. And you referenced in your original testimony that what we do in government with the money that is paid in with Social Security with a trust fund is no different than what a private company does with its retirement plans. Could you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. And I think you've made a number of very important points, and it fits with some of the points Representative Becerra was saying as well, that the federal government, the Social Security system, returns more than 99 cents of every dollar collected in benefits that it collects in contributions. It returns more than 99 cents in benefits. It's extremely efficient, with administrative costs over 1%. The reason it can be so efficient is that it is a universal risk pool. It covers the entire nation. There's no free riders or adverse selection. It has all the strengths of private sector defined benefit plans, but it's universal and portable, and those are some of the problems you get in with, and it's also backed by the government, so it's much more secure. In terms of the funds, since the beginning, since Social Security was created, it's had, from the beginning, two main sources of income. The main source of income were worker contributions, which I note the statute was called the Federal Insurance Contributions Act. These are insurance contributions that workers pay. Any that was not needed, the surplus of contributions over costs of the program, were invested. But because Congress wanted to be particularly safe and secure and because of the trust of the American people, they were taking American workers' money for American workers and their family. They required that those investments be placed in the safest investment on earth, Treasury bonds backed by the full faith and credit of the United States.
Indeed, so many private plans who want to assure maximum security, instead of investing in some Wall Street bank that might need to be bailed out, certainly over my objection, but they will put it into a Treasury bond, the very kind of security that Social Security relies on.
Absolutely. The entire world at this moment, concerned about the volatility in the markets all over the world, are investing in U.S. Treasuries, which is why the rates are so low now. And that's all that's going on. There's nothing magic about it. It's an insurer. Social Security is an insurer. It provides insurance. Like any responsible insurer, it has a reserve. It maintains a reserve. And that reserve, like any responsible insurer, is invested. And most insurers would diversify their portfolio and put some in stocks, but Social Security remains in bonds.
Thank you. Ms. Zielinski, I was particularly interested in your comment that we need a beneficiary impact statement before we accept the advice of some know-it-all expert who's not living with a person with disabilities, who's relying on disability income, who's not a child who must rely on the survivor insurance program, or who is not a senior who is relying on Social Security for the majority of their income. And I think that's something we need to do. And finally, mindful of the time, I just want to say to Mr. Hammond how important I think it is the role that AARP has played in getting our health insurance reform measure passed. And I thank you for the information you've been getting out to seniors. They have heard so much mythology, so many of the same kind of attacks that are being made to try to undermine, weaken, and reduce Social Security have been launched against this health insurance reform, which has strengthened Medicare and extended its solvency for more than another decade. And thank you for getting out objective information. I tell people you don't have to believe the Democrats or the Republicans. Turn to groups like AARP and the American Cancer Society Action Network for objective information about healthcare reform and what it means. And I can see you're going to continue to play an active role in protecting and preserving and strengthening Social Security. Thank you all.